This episode of All Things Business, the podcast, is brought to you by our digital media partner, DFA Law. DFA Law, providers of expert and dedicated legal advice to businesses and families since 1838. DFA Law, the law firm for life.
Fraser.
Ben, you
Right.
well?
Yeah, you?
Yes, very well. Excited.
Yeah. Two special guests today.
Two special guests.
Four of us.
Yeah, I know, from the city of MK, joined by, I'd say, two people that I've become close with, friends over the last 18 months, 2 years, knowledgeable chaps that I wanted to get involved today. So I won't take the shine off you. Ranjit, if you could just introduce yourself to our audience, that'd be great.
Thank you, Fraser. Yeah, my name's Ranjit. I am the co-founder of Milton Keynes Ethnic Business Community. It was set up about 4 years ago to support ethnic minority business leaders to try and get their voices raised and platform raised and a bit of visibility and try and integrate those leaders into the wider business community in Milton Keynes.
Beautiful. You got another hat as well that we should talk about as well. You got many hats, but
Yeah,
also the Milton Keynes.
I do need hats to cover my bonnet. Yeah.
Yeah, not in this weather. You'll be all right. In
No,
the
yeah.
summer, you'll need it.
Yeah, so my day job actually is I'm a philanthropy director at Milton Keynes Community Foundation. It's a place-based grant funder, so we provide financial support and advice to lots of charities in Milton Keynes, and we distribute about £2 million worth of support to the charity sector in Milton Keynes.
Yeah, amazing. And Gamiel?
I'm Gamiel Yafai. I'm also a co-founder of Milton Keynes Ethnic Business Community, and I'm also founder and CEO of Diversity Marketplace, which is a global diversity and inclusion consultancy. We have a team of diversity strategists, analysts, researchers, auditors, trainers, facilitators, and we work all over the world with clients from one-man bands right up to the likes of Santander, Victoria and Albert Museum, and many, many others.
Amazing. So, Ben, I'll let you kick off with
Well,
where we're going to go.
I'm really looking forward to this because for me, every day's a school day. I learn something new every week, and that's what I love about my job. I also make mistakes, and that's about accountability and raising your hand. But inclusivity and diversity, inclusion within the workplace is, I sometimes think it's like the elephant in the room a little bit. And it's at the stage now where I feel and this is why Fraser's reached out to you two gents, because you're seen as experts in this field. But I feel that there's a lot of education that business owners need and can learn from, but maybe not everyone wants to put their hand up. And I've had a couple of examples in recent times where we as a business it's made me question a couple of things as a business. First of all, I think that there's this misconception that it's all about race, and it's not. It's about, well, you guys would tell me I think there's 5 race.
9 protected
There's 9
characteristics.
9. God, sorry, what are the 9?
Well, there you go.
There's a test.
I thought there was 5.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So go on.
Race,
Yeah.
disability, sexual orientation, religion and belief, gender. Then you've got paternity and maternity, which some people will class into gender,
Yeah.
but it's still a protected characteristic.
Yeah.
You've got, transitioning. Then you've got brain dead.
Well, you've got there's
paternity
7
and
there.
maternity. Yeah.
So, and I think one example of this is, I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but Avon, big employer in Northamptonshire, internationally recognised brand. We were a preferred supplier list. Well, we're on their preferred supplier list, but they are, you have to say, the number of directors, shareholders and employees, what the ratio is, BAME and LGBTQ+. And I'm running a business is hard enough on its own. And I don't know if we're going to be scored against our diversity as a business, or whether that would go against us or for us, depending on the sexuality of our staff. One, surely there's a HR issue there, because does it really matter what their sexuality is? Because I want the best people to come and work here. I don't really care what their sexuality is. But then it makes me feel guilty that we've got 28 people here in the business. Everybody's white. And I'd never thought of it like that before. And then I'm like, actually, are we doing something wrong? Would people look at us? Because with all things business, we have had a number of times people have written in or emailed in and said you haven't got enough diversity in the publication.
Can I just
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
take that? And it's really interesting to me. There are so many different definitions of inclusion. Again, I've been doing this is my 24th year of being a strategist, and I know that much about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is like 3 inches, but it's probably 6 inches more than other people. But there's like 100 inches of knowledge to learn. So I know minimum. The key is surround yourself with good people and surround yourself with the experts.
Yeah.
The people with the challenges. And you talk about having a diverse. When we talk about diversity is everybody. We all have a minimum of 5 protected or five diversity strands. Let's just focus on 5 strands. We all have an age. We all have a gender. We all have a religion, a belief or no religion. We all have a sexual orientation. We all have a race. So that's every single individual in your organisation, and that's a minimum. Some other people have a sexual orientation, and again, some people might be transitioning, but also some people will be carers.
Sorry, sexual orientation.
Yeah, and that's LGBTQ
Okay,
plus
yeah, all right,
I.
Okay. Because that's the other thing, terminology.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah,
So
because
important.
it's about the understanding. Like, it's almost like I feel there needs to be like a vocabulary. That sort of
There's lots of different I would say just lists of things to do's and don'ts, and I'll share something with you later. It's called Diversity Online, but we've got all of the different categories of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Plus, we've got the glossary of terms and do's and don'ts. So I will share that with you.
Yeah, but just come back to your point, Ben, about when you're asked to report to your to your supply chain in terms of what your diversity looks like. But I think from my perspective, when I talk to businesses about being it's all about relatability. So if you've got a workforce that is diverse and represents your customer base or your community, your bottom line is going to be much healthier, because you can actually produce goods or services that are relevant to those communities and to your customers.
Yeah, and also, a lot of this has come from. I think just over this last, probably since the pandemic, about people realising that, or me having a better understanding that work's a safe place for people, and as an employer, if you've got a happy employee, that, like there's a saying, happy wife, happy life, for all his husbands out there. But the same rule applies with an employee. If you've got a happy employee, how much more productive are they going to be? Yeah. But I think maybe some employers, and I think maybe I was probably one of them up until more recently, you don't necessarily, it's not that you don't care, but you don't necessarily appreciate, what's happened in her life, or what's happened with him, or he seems a little bit down. And I'm a big advocate for mental health, which is actually that isn't. Should that be one of the protected characteristics?
What, mental health?
Yeah.
Mental health is covered under disability, but
under disability.
Under disability.
See,
but it's covered.
That doesn't sound right to me.
But that's just where it is legally. Mental health. One of the things about mental health is the fact that people's well-being within the workplace is partially determined by how they're treated in the workplace. Yeah. And if we come to my definition of inclusion just means the absence of fear and judgment.
The absence of fear and judgment, yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, and that's what we want.
That's the headline, Arthur, for this episode. Make a note of
that down, Arthur.
I like that. That's quite powerful, actually.
Well, myself and a colleague, we came up with that yesterday morning. Literally.
Quick, trademark.
Oh, yeah.
Get on that quick.
You should have said that.
But anyway, the thing is, everybody wants to feel safe.
Yeah.
And regardless of their nationality, their disability, their sexual orientation. And what we find with a lot of the training that we do, we'll have individuals, particularly white males, that feel that diversity isn't for them because we talk about disability, we talk about sexual orientation, we talk about all of the other strands, but we never talk about white males.
Yeah.
Well, we did a podcast with Eamon Holmes, the host of the MKAs. Lovely guy. You guys were there on the night, so you saw how good he was. And I felt really sorry for him because I asked him a question, and it was, "What's your biggest challenge?" And he said, "I'm the wrong age of 50. He's got mobility issues, which you obviously saw, and I'm white." And he went, "And those are the three things that are going to go against me in the last 10 years of my career." And it is very sad. And I mean, subsequently, I saw a report online. He did an interview with somebody, and I think he's selling the big family home now. And it is sad because he's all of a sudden he's gone from, I suppose, being in the
icon.
and in
correct,
the majority. Is that right?
Yeah.
And now he feels like he's in the minority. And there's this, it's this.
And I think we've got responsibility in that, in terms of how do we, the inclusion piece includes people like Eamon, and what do we do, all of us, whatever background you have got, to make sure that we've got an equal footing for everyone. And I think it's really important that nobody feels excluded, just like what you just said about feeling safe and
that word fear is so powerful on there, because as a white male, I have frustration with it, and I also have the fear of it. That I'm 40 years old, and the terminology that I have used in the past is different to what I can use now. And if I address somebody or give it a definition of who that person is, that I can't remember their name, the fear of trying to describe that person is phenomenal.
We need simple solution. And again, you see, from my perspective, diversity and inclusion is about getting all the simple things right. It's not about, yes, it's about changing our policies, our practices, procedures.
Yeah, absolutely.
But more than anything else, it's about behaviour. And just recognising, and it doesn't matter who you are as an individual, what colour you are, etc. Your kids are going to determine so much of our future.
Well, I was going to say, like, do you feel, I'm a big advocate as well for education, as you all know, but I'm not. Do you feel that there's enough being done in education? Because this is a generation thing that we're in now. We're on the cusp of it. 10 years ago there wasn't some of the scenarios that we have now around sexual orientation and around.
Gender identity, which is one of the biggest ones. How kids particularly want to be identified.
So So my daughter was at a school in Wellingborough, and to be fair, they didn't know how to handle this, but they had a child who's 8 who then wanted to identify as a boy. And we found out from around the dinner table, and I had a big issue with that because I didn't want to be having that conversation with a 7-year-old. I think the school, in hindsight, I actually felt sorry for them, because when I spoke to them, they didn't know how to handle it, and there was nothing out there. And I don't know if it's because it's more open, or if it's, dare I say, a bit of a trend. But now more than ever before, we're seeing young people want to change gender.
We're having conversations that we've never had before.
Yeah, and the conversations are healthy, and I'm fine with that. I think there needs to be, and the government and I don't even know what the law is on this, but the government need to lead with this in terms of bringing in.
They're trying, and the government are trying, but we've got to be respectful of the needs of our kids.
But if a kid as young as 8 saying that they should, what's the threshold?
I'm not saying that that young. I'm saying there needs to be a certain age at which we have they're already happening, and they're happening from age of 5 onwards. And the thing is, it's very difficult for any teachers, parents, to control what's happening within the class. Not within the classroom, but outside of the classroom.
The classroom was a lot smaller 20, 30 years ago with children, but
Kirby,
also
2010.
I spoke to marbles about somebody the other day, and they'd never played marbles on a drain. I know, it was amazing.
I think when it comes to schools, I think it's really important, and I'm a massive advocate for role modelling. If you just look at Milton Keynes, for example, 53% of school children are from ethnic minority backgrounds.
Yeah.
Ethnically diverse backgrounds, should I say. And, you know, what we have to have is good role models in those schools.
Yeah.
And what we're finding, and I speak to lots of aspiring school teachers who are aspiring to be leaders. And I think less than 3%, I think, of school leadership are from ethnic backgrounds.
Yeah.
So if and we always hear the term, if you can't see it, you can't be it. So if you've got 53%, and some schools in Milton Keynes are about 70, 80% ethnicity.
86%.
Yeah, 86%. Yeah. So
Really?
if that's not being reflected in the leadership or the people that are teaching them, and they don't understand what their needs are,
So-
I think that makes it a bit of a difficulty for our young people and how they move through the education system.
So help me here, and I'm gonna. I don't want this to cause offence in the question I'm going to ask. But if you're in that school and you're on that leadership board, and you go, right, we need to recruit 5 new teachers for the new academic year. Are you specifically looking for non-white teachers to come into those roles?
No.
Like, can you understand where I'm coming from
no,
with
I
that?
can.
To help
Yeah.
to help buck that trend.
It's not about, it should always be about having the best person for the job.
Yeah.
That is it. That's, top line. The challenge that schools have is sometimes they only recruit in certain places. So they're only accessing a small pool
Yeah,
of
okay,
talent.
yeah.
And it's more about how do they widen, that search to create that much bigger pool of talent so that they can, tap into the difference that exists out there.
Okay, well, great answer, and that's what I thought the answer would be. On the flip side, I was with a headhunting agency a couple of months ago, having a conversation, and they had to recruit an IT director, and basically there was 2 candidates. One was a mid-30s.
I just love how Gamiel's smiling at every scenario that
What?
comes up.
Yeah, but
I know
this is what's happening. This is
know,
real life.
I know,
yeah,
I know.
But this is going to sound. I can't fluff this up any more
No,
than I am.
don't.
One was a lady who was black, mid-30s, up against a guy who was white, late 40s, more experienced. On paper, you could probably argue that he might be worth 10 or 15 grand a year more. The headhunting agency in question placed the lady 120 grand, and they got a 20% increase because it was 100 grand a year package, and they got a 20% increase. But I think a lot of that goes on.
It does, and I experience it.
And I think that's
Yeah, but honestly, what tends to happen, and we're starting to see this now, particularly with heads of diversity roles, over the last, since Black Lives Matters, what's been happening is a lot of heads of diversity and diversity managers have been recruited based on lived experience.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rather than having 100% of the skills and knowledge needed. And what we've started to see over the last couple of years is employers getting rid of more and more heads of diversity because of competence and confidence. And that's going to happen if you put somebody into a role that is not the best person for the job. The likelihood is they will either leave because they're not able to do what they thought they were going to do, or they'll get sacked. And we can't have that.
But surely the challenge is then is getting those people that might not have the competency. How do you get them to become competent? Are employers doing the things or training them or developing people to get to that 40-year-old, level?
I can give you examples. I mean, we've been running a program for the civil service for 10 years, and it's an accelerator program, and it's all about moving individuals who haven't, who are competent but haven't had the confidence in themselves. And again, it doesn't matter what characteristic you belong to or what diversity strand. It applies to so many people because of introverts versus extroverts, autism, dyspraxia, ADHD, dyslexia, and education,
and just on that,
social mobility.
a lot of what we've already discussed has been around what you see, the colour of people's skin. When you look at autism, people that are on the spectrum, that you can't see those. They're sort of hidden to a certain degree.
I think I was at a send recruitment seminar last week, and I came away from it. I'm not going to say less educated than what I was, because we're deeply ingrained in the education, and we work with some amazing people in that sector. But an example of there's thousands of people in Northamptonshire that suffer with a disability that need that opportunity.
20% of your population here will be neurodivergent.
Yeah.
And there's a different, and in this terminology, everybody is neurodiverse. But individuals who are autistic, dyslexic,
But Gamiel, how many of them know that they are?
not that many, and girls less than boys. And this is about, this is about leadership. It's about making sure that we have some basic knowledge.
Yeah.
I know, I've gone into firms and I've done assessments around levers. I can guarantee that 50% of some of the levers in some organisations have been got rid of or have left through frustration because they haven't been given the right level of support or reasonable adjustments for them to be able to maximise on their potential in that workplace. And that's happening loads. Employers need to have that minimum level to understand that if somebody keeps making written mistakes, that it's not, that's not an education thing.
Attention to detail, laziness.
Yeah. It's a generational thing and an educational point. And not when does this end, but when do we get to a point that we've made a difference? Because at the moment there's a lack of understanding, a lack of awareness, the increase of using the Milton Keynes children to teachers scenario, that are we 20 years away from that difference happening, but will the gap continue to change? And with the...
It comes back to the point around everything that you're doing, does that need to almost happen at primary school level? Because then we benefit from it
later
in 20 years' time.
It's about multiple approaches.
Yeah.
It's not just about one thing. It's about, yes, our teachers firstly need to understand how to support the kids better. And, employers need to understand. I guarantee you that even in this organisation, you may think that you know everybody.
Yeah.
You will know so little about so many people that you work with. Yeah, even people that you've worked with for 10 or 15 years. Not because they're fearful, but because they're not quite sure how much of themselves to talk about. And we talk about cloaking. We talk about...
What's cloaking?
Cloaking is where somebody has a disability or different sexual orientation, or even a Muslim that will not express who they are, won't talk about being a Muslim, won't talk about their autism, dyspraxia or ADHD through fear of judgment.
Judgment and exclusion.
And that happens all of the time in so many different workplaces. And this is the thing, inclusion isn't just about ethnicity.
An easy one there is for the employer or employers to be very open with internal comms in terms of it's fine to be your whatever you want to be.
I think it's all about workplace culture. If your workplace culture, or if you haven't got a workplace culture, no one's going to come forward because they don't feel psychologically safe to do so.
So give us an example of what a business could do. Someone's listening to this.
Simple. The simplest thing. All of your your managers, yourselves, you've had your own life experiences. You may have had, most of us will experience mental health, but we'll never talk about it. We need to be talking about our vulnerabilities. Most of you will have either kids or relatives with disabilities. Do you ever talk about them? And it's about making things open, but also it's about, on your websites, in your meetings, your daily meetings, on your intranet. It's about making things visible. That's where we're, that's the biggest challenge.
I think it starts with leaders showing their vulnerability.
Absolutely.
If a leader of an organisation is showing their vulnerability, it opens up your staff then to do the same thing. Because if your leader's got this, is giving a perception of, I'm perfect, I'm invincible, there's nothing wrong with me.
How do you think we do on that? I know it's different because you've got a very senior role here, but do you think we do a good job at that or not?
It's hard. We have a member of the team that is a trans woman that has transitioned, and that was something I've never experienced in my life. And I'm doing my utmost, but I go back to the fear. I'm scared of saying.
Yeah, but you're scared of upsetting her.
I'm scared of saying the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But I'm taken away from today that there isn't a wrong thing that I could be said. I'm sure there is.
For me, it's about intention. So for example, when someone asks me my name, or they ask me about me, I will always understand the motivation behind the question.
Yeah.
You always know whether someone's doing it because they're being derogatory, or whether they really want to find out.
Yeah, okay.
Right,
yeah.
so you can always work that out. And if someone's being derogatory, you can put a stop to it. But if you know someone genuinely wants to find out about you and they ask you the wrong thing, I will never be insulted by that or be offended by it.
How would they be derogatory? Like,
So this thing with the royal family last year or year before, was it? Yeah, where they say, "Where are you from? Where are you really from?" That sort of thing would be derogatory in my view. But if someone said to me, "What's your ethnic background?" I'd be more than happy to say where I'm from and what my.
And that brings us back to terminology.
Yeah.
But also, it's about it's not just about intention. If people keep asking you, and you get fed up of that. And we talk about, micro inequalities or microaggressions, and these are what we call small cuts. If you say it once, okay, that's fine. But if everybody in the organisation sort of keeps asking me, one, where am I from? Two, is that a wig you're wearing? And again, a lot of black women get that.
Yeah.
So, oh gosh, so often in the workplace. Because
part of me thinks I'm a bit naive to this. I'd never ask a lady, "Is that a wig you're wearing?" It wouldn't be. I wouldn't
never ask anyone that. Let alone,
Well, yeah.
But then, this it's an educational side. Back to the question on how we deal with it. I think our culture has gone through a change. I think we've matured as a business, and we've had to change. Our culture has.
Well, when our colleague came to us last year and said that he would be transitioning to a lady, I'll be honest, I'd struggled to, and it made me really look at us as a business in terms of where we want to go, because we want to grow, we need to have more people, etc. And but because I knew this individual before the individual transitioned, and then I got to understand why they're transitioning, 100% I'm going to do everything I can to support that person. But if I'm being really honest, if we were recruiting and I had a trans person come and apply for the job, I'd be lying if I said that that wouldn't be a consideration, because of me being naive and uneducated would feel uncomfortable. Yeah. But because I knew, it sounds bad me saying this, because I knew the person before and during, I know that person's like, and I want to support that person, and we have done.
Yeah.
But there have been other conversations where I've thought to myself, what happens if a couple of our customers don't feel that way, and they stop working with us? Yeah. And I made the decision after I slept on it, and I was like, well, if they're going to be like that, I don't want their business anyway. Correct. And that's the right decision. Yeah, absolutely. But all these decisions, all these things play on your mind.
You have to consider all of that. You do have to consider all of that, and we'd be lying to ourselves if we didn't.
And part of it's our biases. The fact that you knew the individual, mitigated your bias.
Yeah.
But I felt bad, because if you'd asked me that question 18 months ago, I would have given you a different answer.
I thank you for being honest, and we need to. But these are the conversations that we need to be having in the workplace. And the fact is, the individual concerned, the best thing you can do to support that individual is just ask them, how can we make your life better at work? Just simple, not. And again, we should be asking every single individual in this organisation the same question.
Do you know what's a real takeaway for me from you saying that, and it came into my brain a moment ago, that we have, as 40-year-old men, mental health is something that we have always spoken about. We have championed it, and I like to think we're there for each other. We ask twice. Sometimes we ask 3 times and get the wrong answer back from it, because I told you twice before. But a takeaway from me from this is businesses need to treat inclusivity, diversity and inclusion the same as they treat mental health, because you were scared about it. You weren't allowed to talk about it. Everyone has had their challenges. I've had my challenges. He's had his challenges. But then that's all we think about. We forget about everything else.
I think there's some good. I can almost, like when you go to I haven't been to one for years, but like a speed.
I thought you were going to say gym.
Speed dating?
Mate, you want to go there after the last episode? Do you know what? He's not running the half marathon that he promised everybody. He was going to. Yeah, we'll talk to you about that after, won't we, Fraser?
You lost your point now. Something you've not been to for a while.
Is a speed networking event.
Yeah.
We could almost do that, but with a team here, right? And you could just do it on a Friday morning, get some bacon sandwiches in or whatever, and just have like a bit of a format, but people that wouldn't necessarily sit next to people, and just do that with 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. Do you know what we do? And again, there's a number of quick takeaways. Things like when you're not quite sure what to say to somebody. My key every single time is with the individual. I just say, I've sat next to you for years, but I don't know that much about you. Tell me about yourself, and tell me about yourself is the simplest, easiest question to ask an individual. And what tends to happen, and I guess we run training programs on this, what tends to happen is they will still tell you as much as they think you want to know.
Yeah.
The next thing to do is say, now tell me a bit more. What you're doing is you're creating that trust. You're saying to them, you really want to know more about them. And, and it is, and we should be sharing, but we need to be appreciative of the fact that some people may not be ready to share.
Yeah,
and that's fine as well. That's absolutely fine as well.
We've just initiated a thing about this isn't about diversity, it's about getting to know people in your team. So we've initiated a time for tea. So we randomly pair people up who aren't necessarily in the same team, and they go off for half an hour and go to a coffee shop somewhere and just talk about general life, and share as much as they want to about their life and as little as they want. Yeah. So, and then you rotate it so they meet twice, and then you rotate it again. It's a bit of a process to it, but it's also quite a relaxed way of doing it as well. So I think that's really important, just from a perspective of getting to know each other. Whether you do it from a diversity perspective or not, you're going to find out things about
So you're
people.
going to generate that conversation.
Yeah, it creates more connection with your colleagues.
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And everything is about, and this is the thing that I think businesses haven't quite got yet. Everything that they do that involves people is about diversity and inclusion. It's about how we treat people, how we treat everybody the way they want to be treated, not make assumptions. Or we need to be more cognizant. And again, it's about our own education. It's about, and cognizance is 1, recognizing that we've got biases, 2, recognizing we've got blind spots, and 3, recognizing we just don't know what we don't know. But that's not a bad thing, as long as we ask people how we can support them, because it's how we can support them that will increase our knowledge. And I promise you, if you went round and spent 10 minutes with every member of staff, you will learn so much more about them than you've ever done.
I have 2 concerns / things that I need to educate myself from today. So the first one is, you've used the term people quite a lot, both of you. People. But we break people down into categories. You go out for people that you work with, have a cup of coffee, get to know that person. Mm-hmm. And for me, I get so frustrated that can't we just see everybody as people? Now, I know everybody has their challenges or their, I don't even know what the captural phrase is, but their personality or
their identities.
Their identity. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Their identities. But once you get to know that person, when they feel comfortable with you, will then explain that more to you. And I don't know, a takeaway from me, I'd like people to see people and then get to know that person. But the other side, on the educational side, I've spent a lot of time in schools and on recruitment things of how they can engage and learn more. The youth of today do not know how to communicate. The strength of holding a conversation with you, it worries me that
the world like in 15 years.
The world has turned very quickly in the last 5 to 10 years. Fast forward 10 to 15 years. What does that look like?
We will, to be honest with you, haven't got a clue. The thing is, so many things are
Does it
so
scare-
many.
does it scare you,
honestly,
though?
no, it doesn't, because we need to, as I say, parents,
Yep.
teachers, adults. Again, as Ranjit said, we need to role model the behaviours. The more we're not at the moment. We have that fear. And we have that fear for our kids. But in 50, at the moment we're talking about gender identity and kids wanting to be identified, sadly, as cats. And I say sadly, I shouldn't say that, because that's down to the kid. I know, but
no, I have an issue
let's
with
not. Well,
We have a scenario on that.
yeah,
We've spoken
well,
about it before. But yeah, I
kids
get
that
it.
want to be identified differently or not wanting to be identified as male or female.
Yeah.
We don't have
I've got
a
to pull
choice
you
on
back on
that.
that.
Yeah, okay.
Like, you ain't gonna please.
But Ben, who are we to tell kids? You're not. I don't mean now. It's not who are we to tell kids. It's there is so much.
It
Going
doesn't
on
matter
at
if
the
they're
moment.
if they're a kid or an adult. You can't. You're a human being. You cannot say please. And we've got a live example of this of an insurance call centre in London, and it's an adult who wants to be identified as a cat.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that, and there's more underlying issues there.
I think to summarise what Ben's about to say, or before he says anything else, where does
But we can't. The thing is,
where does the
we
business
can't make
stop or
light
start?
of it.
I'm not okay. All right. I don't want to cause offence to any
fairies?
Cats,
people that are listening. But I do have an issue. If you're an adult and you want to identify as anything else, I can handle the sexual orientation.
Yeah.
I can handle. That's fine. I get that, and I'm fine with that. But if you want to be identified as an animal or as a tree, I have an issue with that.
Yeah. Okay.
And from a HR perspective, that must be a nightmare.
Ben, that is your perspective, and the thing is, that's absolutely fine. Being
What's your take on it?
My,
Well, both.
What I
take-
was going to say to your
Yeah.
first point was the way I sort of see people. I see human beings first.
Yeah.
That's what I see. I don't see everything else comes after that. Whether you're a male, you're a female, whatever you want to do. For me to do what I do, especially with the MK Ethnic business stuff, is I see humans. I want humans to be in a room, talking to each other, connecting with each other, making the world better.
Yeah.
And that's the way I see things.
Totally agree.
And then everything else comes after that, and we create judgments, all that sort of stuff based on, your, whatever diversity
Strand.
things you want to call it. But for my, I'm a simple person.
Yeah.
I like to see people as human beings.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
it.
let me share something with you. I mean, I run training programs for CEOs and all different levels of organizations. When I'm doing webinars, I get criticized, quite a lot. I get criticized by women, particularly when I'm literally stating the status quo, how things are, the law and everything else. And I'll still get criticized. I'm not giving them my opinion, but I'll get criticised for so many things. And I actually got criticised in one of my training sessions and I turned my face up when somebody said that, they talked about identifying as a cat. And that's what I did, partially because it may not be what I think is right, but also it's not my place to judge anybody. And when it comes to kids and when it comes to your kids, that's your responsibility. How you want to.
Well, that's an interesting one there, because I think if you're a child and you want to identify as a cat, I think it's down to the parents to guide them through that
absolutely
time in their life. If you're an adult, I think there has to be a question there around the mental health and well-being of the individual. And if you are either a friend, a colleague, a loved one of that individual, I think questions you'd have to ask around their mental stability.
But that would be a friend. It wouldn't be somebody that doesn't know them or somebody that's.
Of course, or a colleague in the workplace.
Yeah.
And
But on that as well, not where does it stop in the workplace, because it can't. What I've learned today, we need to continue to evolve.
Absolutely.
But that line in the sand of the inclusion of, and I suppose everything really is, where does it stop? What is deemed as not deemed as acceptable,
Okay.
but when it starts to impact the business
Yeah.
and maybe possibly other people,
Well,
how
it
do we
depends what
manage,
you
how
mean
do we
by-
manage that?
You know, where does it stop? What is it? Are we talking about creating that culture of inclusion? Are we talking about...
I'm going to pull the cat back into the
But if
conversation.
you turn up as a cat
Yeah,
Monday morning,
but-
you're out.
Okay, but can I just say, the cat, you know, identifying as a cat is one tiny
Agreed, yeah.
element
Yeah,
of
yeah,
this.
yeah.
And yes,
It's a
it's
scenario.
important. Absolutely, it's important. But leadership behaviour is ultimately the thing. It's about, again, it's about people. You know, I hate actually having to categorise people into the different strands. I hate that, but
Yeah, I
we
get that.
have to
I
do
get
it
that.
because, you know, you'll have staff in this organisation who are cloaking for some reason. And the thing is, when you're talking about a larger organisation,
Yeah.
you know, hundreds of people, where there might be, you know,
10%.
oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
minimum.
yeah.
Then you can't, if you don't identify those categories, you're not able to deal with the issues.
I've got a good. I went to an event a few years ago with Kelly Smith, and it was at the Gherkin, and I can't remember the legal firm, but it was the first legal firm in London to have an LGBTQ plus policy.
Was
Okay.
it Clifford Chance? Or
Oh, do you know what?
something
It
like
might
that?
have been actually, and it was a partner who, I think they were gay, but it weren't openly gay.
Yeah.
Eventually told their partners, as in work partners, the
Yeah.
board, and like I was like clearly really nervous. They were like, "No, that's fine." I think that a couple of them might have known anyway. Weight lifted off of her shoulders, sorry, and then it was a case of, look, actually, if you're feeling like this, how many others are? Because they were they're like 500-600 people, and they sort of, it was actually very clever that they sort of not spun it, but they took that situation and made a real positive spin on it, and it ended up being a wonderful recruitment tool for them, because then you go and think of all the other LGBTQ plus lawyers in London. Well, I'm going to go and work for them because they're open and
That's the business case.
Yeah.
For actually, and this is about visibility and talking about
and
it.
the productivity element as well.
Yeah.
They can be who they want to be in the office, opposed to, I need to not be myself and wear this, or my behaviour is a little bit. I mean, not professionally, but it's that productivity element.
It's full circle of the story that you've just told, comes full circle back to what we all need to learn and take away, that it's leadership. It starts with somebody saying, somebody showing a vulnerability, somebody saying, this is okay, we can make this work. Seeing everybody as people, and then changing that culture that, what you said, work as a safe space. We might just have solved it. But it starts with leadership. It starts with the people. Yeah. It creates that culture, and it's a safe place to come. And it's how much, as business owners, would that decision could have gone 50-50 either way, right? Yeah. And they've accelerated as a company.
The culture bit is for me is really important. And don't forget, nowadays you probably have got 4 generations working in the same place.
You have.
Correct. Yeah.
So your culture has to fit, and you need your leaders engaging with the very young generation and throughout as well. So you learn from each other as well. So that will then create kind of not the prejudices, but some of the things that we don't know about. We'll learn about them from young people, and young people will learn from. It's a
different perspectives.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
But this is about safe space as well. You know, we have to create that safe space for those youngsters to feel comfortable and confident to actually not necessarily challenge leaders, but to help leaders understand how they best work. And we make assumptions, and the challenge that we have within the workplace is, particularly at manager level, you know, most managers are promoted because they're really, really good at their job. You know, they've done brilliantly at that job, then they've got promoted, and then they've got to manage people. The challenge is that because they've been promoted based on their brilliance, there's this assumption that that's the way to do things. And that prevents creativity, innovation, and thinking.
not all good footballers are good football managers.
Absolutely.
We
And we've
pulled up-
seen that so many
Correct.
times.
Look at Jurgen Klopp.
Look at Gerrard.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I was hoping somebody was going to bring that in. Just,
I'm sorry,
just so I could.
You're a red as well, yeah?
Yeah, but it's true that changes. And one thing that I love, what you're just saying about the culture, is a client of ours in Northamptonshire refurbed their office. The partners and the directors don't have individual offices. They hot desk.
Yeah.
They go in and they go and sit next to somebody that may just have qualified, just have started.
Yeah.
You cast your mind back to when
10
you
years.
started
Yeah.
and the director sat next to you.
Fourth floor, fifth
Yeah.
floor.
Yeah. That hierarchy.
Yeah, that the culture. I go back to. I spent years in a estate agency of somebody turning up, screaming, shouting, smashing cups, effing, blinding across the office. That was the culture that we knew.
Yeah.
You did that today. My God.
Oh, it would be
Yeah, I know,
harassment.
yeah.
It'd
As you
be
throw the
bullying.
cup at me, Ranjit.
Right. I can't let you go without asking you both one last very good question. But before we do that, I just want to say thank you. I've definitely learnt a lot today, and I've got some takeaways for us as a business.
Honestly, my brain is fizzing.
T for two
Really
is
is.
we're going to implement that. We're going to speak to the team. We're going to implement that immediately because I think that's great.
Fantastic.
So thank you. All right,
Yeah,
and
really,
we'll have to
really-
get the details of your open programs. Yeah, I'm guessing they're like a one day. Is it a one day?
Maybe
get
half days.
Half days. We'll get the details on that, and I think we need to push that out as well.
I've really enjoyed this. It's one that I've wanted to do, and I've wanted to do it. To make that clear, when we choose to do things, is because we're invested in it and we want to do it. We don't do things because we have to do it. This for us is, as Ben said at the beginning, if he's thinking it, majority of the people out there are, and there's some great things that we've taken
Great.
away.
And it comes across very genuine because you can always work out, like I said, the intention behind what someone wants to do. And if it's genuine,
you can't bullshit a bullshitter.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know how
Yeah.
many times I've had to close my lips so that I could let Ranjit speak?
You've done very well.
Right, on that
Very
note
well.
then, Ranjit, you've got a dinner for 4 tomorrow night. You've got 3 guests with you. Who are they, past or present?
Who's paying?
Well,
Ben.
That's my first
no,
question.
no.
Great question.
Who are they?
Who are
No
they?
one's ever asked who's paying.
Yeah,
That's it. Being treated by your guests now.
Past will be quite personal with my dad. He's no longer with us. And he was a great leader. He was the first generation immigrant into the UK in the 60s. And I'm where I am today because of him and his leadership. And he was a strong community leader. And he believed in the human being aspect I talked about. And he really taught me a lot about leadership. I'd want to sit... Who else would I want to sit with? Goodness me. I don't want to say someone typical. Because people always go for your Nelson Mandela and people like that, who, of course, are very inspirational people. Go to Gamiel, then I'll come back to me.
You can't steal his answers.
No,
Go on, Gamiel.
Well, you've talked about your dad.
yeah,
I'd love to have my mum spend even an hour with me. And my mum taught me kindness. My mum was Glaswegian, or half Glaswegian. Her dad came from Hyderabad in India in 1900. And her mum was born in Glasgow.
Wow.
You know, her mum was half Irish, half Scottish. And my mum taught me how to make tea at the age of 6. Strong tea drinker and smoker. How to decorate, how to use a hammer and nails. She taught me everything that my dad should have taught me, but she was brilliant. She set me up for life. I even sew my own stuff.
Really?
Yeah, seriously, my mum just taught me everything. But there are so many questions that I've still got for my mum that are unanswered. So my mum would be the most important. The second one would be Klopp.
Will be Jurgen.
Oh, absolutely. Gosh, just to sit and he is such an inspirational leader. I've watched him since the start. You can tell that every single player loves him. They will do
They'd run through brick
whatever.
walls.
Do you know what?
Yeah.
And lots of people, as soon as he announced his retirement, so many people said that's the end of Liverpool are just going to collapse. I went, absolutely not. Everybody is going to work their socks off. We've scored 9 goals in the last 2 games since he announced it. You know,
It's a legacy.
You know, and it is a legacy.
The final guest with Jürgen and you and your mum.
I know, Elvis Presley.
Bit of entertainment. That's a great table.
That is a good table.
And my mum would love that as well. That would be for me and my mum.
I might come to that.
You're welcome.
Do you know what? We've asked this question for years, haven't we? Yeah. And there's no right or wrong answer, but it gives an insight into the person. And obviously your mum saying thank you for the journey that you've gone on. Jürgen Klopp as a leader. And then, well, obviously Elvis sort of almost paved the way for music, didn't he? So, go on and Ranjit, no pressure, mate.
So Steve Jobs would be one. Yeah. Another person I'd want to, because I think he went through quite an interesting transition in terms of his mindset from being quite a ruthless business person to towards the end of his life. Philanthropy side of things, and also his kind of view of world and life towards the end of his life.
Have you watched Blackberry?
No.
The film. Worth it. It's a good watch.
Right. I'll have a watch.
It's good watch. It's like based on the true story. Yeah. Sorry.
And then there's a music producer that I really like, and he's still around. It's called LTJ Bookham, and he does kind of drum and bass music. Yeah, I want to sit down with him and chill and listen to some. No, it's not that. It's quite chill actually. I'd call it chill and bass actually.
Chill and bass.
But I'd like him to do the music set for the dinner.
Oh, nice. I was going there with that. I'm thinking I know that name from somewhere.
Yeah. But was he local guy?
No, I think he's London based.
See, I made an assumption. Yeah, I was not going. When you said music, I was not going with drum and bass, Ranjit. I really wasn't.
What were you? Go on,
I don't know where I was going. I was thinking, is he going to go with jazz? Is he going to go something along that way? And then it was drum and bass.
I've seen Ranjit dance.
Have you? Well, look, gents. Once again, thank you.
Really good.
I enjoy being around you guys. I've learnt a lot before just speaking today, and there's a lot of work to be done. But thanks for joining us, and wish you nothing.
Thank you for inviting us. Genuinely, we can feel, and I can definitely feel the need to learn and to want to be educated. But most of your education will come from people in this office.
Yeah, correct.
But also recognise that there's lots more that you can do as well as asking your people.
I think there's opportunities to learn from each other.
Absolutely.
Right?
Definitely.
Knowledge share. You said expert, thank you, but I'm not an expert. But just having these conversations, you do learn, and we all learn from each other, right? So I think that's really important to keep the conversations going.
Good luck to you.
But
again, if there's anything we can, and we're not talking about consultancy, conversations. If you want to just have a conversation about anything to do with diversity and inclusion, more than happy to. But again, I'm no expert.
You are in our eyes.
You are in our eyes. But there's one thing that I've said this since the pandemic, that relationships crumbled during the pandemic. New relationships were formed, but a lot of people now prefer themselves to surround them with people that are leaders, inspirational, and who they're going to learn from. And that's who I want to hang around with. Radiators, not sponges.
Thank you.
I know they were busy, so we invited you to.
Drains. Radiators, not drains.
Radiators,
sponges. Well done, Fraser.
Cheers.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Thank you.